I know it might be difficult for you to really believe this or to really see it right now, but even if the worst case scenario did happen, you would still be all right. Sometimes we put so much emphasis on our healing process and trying to perfect how we show up because we want to protect the relationships that we have and the relationships that we come into, that we overthink in that process. We overthink what we do, we overthink what we say, we overthink how we respond, we overthink if we responded enough. Did I send the right text? Sometimes we could send a message and we can sit with it for a long period of time and kind of sit in this place of anticipation, wondering, should I not have said that? Was it too soon? Was it not soon enough? Did I not do enough? Navigating relationships in adulthood is extremely challenging. And I think that is most challenging because we have all of these things that we have learned throughout life. We have all of these traumas that we have experienced, all of these things that we have been taught not to do. We are not often taught as being set down in a classroom, but sometimes life becomes the classroom that teaches us. The experience with our parents, the experience with our sisters, our brothers, our siblings, the experience with our aunts, our uncles, our cousins, our friends, the experiences that we see on social media now become a tool to be a classroom for us to navigate relationships. We see how people respond, how people react. You know, vulnerable moment for me when I was growing up. My mom struggled and battled with mental health issues as I was growing up. And so I was always walking on eggshells. And in that place, I learned that my feelings really didn't matter because everything had to revolve around what mood she was in that particular day. Thank God my mom has come to a place of healing now, so I don't experience that. But even in that, it became very challenging for me as a child to kind of learn that my feelings mattered. A matter of fact, I really never learned until my adulthood that my feelings did matter. All of my life was spent around trying to placate to someone that was an adult of how I needed to show up for them. No one ever asked me how I was. And so I learned that my feelings didn't matter. How that manifested itself into my adulthood is I am constantly trying to serve the relationships around me, sometimes to a fault. And it serves as a trigger that those things that I experienced in my childhood, they show up in my relationships, whether it is on a job, whether it's with my friends, whether it's with a significant other, right? It shows up. And so I'm always overthinking. And I've realized that in that there are times I was talking to my sister yesterday, and we were talking about how I will stop texting you if I think that I'm bothering you, or I will leave early if I think that you are ready for me to leave because I'm trying to serve you. And I don't want this uncomfortable feeling of feeling like I'm being a burden because I have felt the pressure of being a burden for having a need of my own that follows you into your adulthood. And no one talks about the process of having to heal through that when you're trying to live, recognizing that you're no longer in that space, but it's still chasing you, it's still following behind you. You know, there is a scripture that I want to read, but when I read this scripture or when I talk about this scripture, this story, this allegory today, I don't want you to see it as a story. I want you to see it as your own process today because this will help you to navigate that particular space of feeling like you're being a burden, of feeling like maybe you're doing too much, or feeling like you don't deserve what it is that you believe you desire and want. Feeling as though your feelings don't matter if you're in that place where I've been before. There's a scripture in Exodus chapter number 14. I'm going to start, I believe, at verse number 13. Moses and his people. Moses said to his people, "Fear not, stand firm, and see the salvation of the Lord, which the Lord worked for you today. For the Egyptians you see today, you shall see no more forever." You'll never see them again. The Lord will fight for you, and you only need to be silent. That place of silence is very difficult when the voices are very loud. That place of silence, of resting in God and knowing that you are enough, that you are worthy of your needs being met, that place is very difficult to rest in. The silence of just resting and knowing I am enough. I deserve whatever it is that I'm asking for. I'm not asking for too much. I'm not overstaying my welcome, but I can take up space and don't have to shrink myself in order to appease everyone that's around me. You know, I believe that when we look at this particular scripture, there is a whole wealth of things that we find from this. But I think the key thing is that Moses had made a decision that he was going to lead the people out of Egypt. And when we talk about Egypt, we must talk about the processes that the children of Israel had learned. Everything that they had learned about life and how to operate and how to see things, the lens that they saw out of, the appetite that they had, was all based off of the Egyptians, the place where they were held captive. Everything that they learned was based off of the bondage that they were in. And so the Moses in your mind, the part of yourself that says, I need to be free of this, rose up and he said, I'm going to let my people go. I'm going to free myself. I'm going to free ourselves. And so he began to start to ask the Pharaoh to let the people go. And the Pharaoh was relentless at first of not wanting to let them go. And I think that's indicative sometimes of us desiring to be healed, of us desiring a better life. But then once you desire that better life, you're presented with all of these circumstances that trigger you to pull you back. Many times those triggers are silent triggers. They're not always loud. Sometimes they show up inside of our hearts. They show up in our thought processes. It's not something that someone always does to us physically on the outside. Sometimes it's what we do to ourselves because of the bondage that we've been in, the captivity that we've been in our heart and in our mind. And I know for many of us, more than anything, we just want to be free of the overthinking. We just want to be free of not wanting to take up space. We just want to be free and we want to see exactly what we were created for. As they begin their pursuit towards the land of freedom, the promised land that God had promised them, just as we have been promised as well, that there is freedom for us. Just as he began to pursue further, to pursue healing, to pursue deliverance, all of a sudden the bondage started chasing him. And they could hear the sound of the chariots beginning to run behind them. I think that there's so many times in relationships when we're in conversation or when we're battling with how to communicate, because maybe you've been in a place where you've communicated your feelings before and your feelings have been hurt, or you've been embarrassed, or you've been ashamed, you've been made to feel ashamed. And those are the chariots chasing you. When you get to another moment where it's time for you to communicate what you need, but then the chariots, the loud sound of where you have been held in bondage or in captive by a bad relationship or a bad circumstance, begins to chase behind you in this new relationship, your mind will begin to overwhelm itself, and it will begin to think of all of the possibilities of what could go wrong and how wrong it could be and how bad it could be. But what Moses says to the children of Israel in this particular scripture is, I think, what we have to rest with. He said, silence, silence yourself, and just believe that you've done and you do the right things and that you deserve to speak up, to communicate, and to have your communication being heard without feeling as though you're being a burden. You've got to silence those thoughts that tell you anything other than this is what I needed to do. When you've done the right thing, you've got to rest in that right thing and not overthink it. Telling yourself, I'm not going to overthink this. I've done the right thing. And if someone walks out of my life, then it's because they weren't meant to be in my life. You got to understand that everything that is meant for you has been prepared perfectly and designed perfectly for you. And you would never be too much for the right people in your life. You will never be too much for those that God has intended to be in your life. But in the same token, If they're not meant to be in your life, it doesn't matter how much you shrink yourself in order to try to fit in. You'll only lose your identity. You'll only lose your greatness as you begin to become a contortionist in order to fit into someone else's life. When they silenced their voices and they kept walking, they kept going. They eventually got to the place where they began to walk across the river. And I can only imagine how much fear must have been behind them as they're walking across the river and it looks like it's being held up. You're actually doing it. That's the process of when you start showing up for yourself, when you start communicating effectively and not being afraid of what happens. It's like walking across the sea and the walls of water on both sides, and they could collapse at any given moment, but you're just going to go through and trust it. And that's what you've got to learn how to do today. You this season, you've got to learn how to just walk through with the walls of water standing up on both sides. Sure, they could just collapse, come down, and it could kill you and destroy you. But what happens in this stead as they're walking across the same water that they were able to get across on, it killed those that were trying to chase them so they didn't have to see it again. You will destroy every relationship that you are not meant to have, every person that you are not meant to be connected to when you show up authentically as who God has created you to be without shrinking yourself back. Those relationships will take care of themselves, but you will eventually get to the people and the places that God has destined for you because you're bold enough and courageous enough to just keep going. Don't stop showing up for yourself. Don't stop searching for the healing and walking after the healing and doing the things that you know are right, even when you're being chased by the thoughts, even when you're being chased by the feelings. Even when you're being chased by your past, and not always past people, sometimes it is the past from the things that you have learned from childhood, the past beginning to chase you. Just keep going. Keep pursuing the better. Keep pursuing the greater. Keep pursuing the higher because where God is taking you, you've got to get rid of all of the negativity, all of the people that weren't assigned to you. You've got to get rid of all of the thoughts that you have learned while you were in Egypt, while you were in your bondage, while you were stuck in your childhood, not able to get beyond it, not able to get past it. Give yourself a fighting chance to keep walking. And when you keep walking, silence your mind and trust. Trust that how God created you with the needs that He created you for, that how God authentically created you, it was perfect for the place where He's prepared for you and for the people that He has prepared for you. I am hoping that this message has brought deliverance to your life, that it has delivered you from the patterns and the series of overthinking and overwhelming yourself, that you will have the boldness and the courageousness to stand up for yourself. Your future, your destiny is waiting for you to get over the fear of the bondage that's been trying to chase you. But all you got to do is keep going. Thank you, family, so much for watching. I'm hoping that this message has encouraged you, that it has blessed you in some way, that you feel liberated, that you feel free, so that you can go after what God really does have for you. I believe that it's going to be greater than what you could have imagined and anticipated. Thank you so much, every single one of you that have become a part of my family. I thank you. I love you with all of my heart. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for joining me every single week. Maybe share this with your friends. Maybe share this with someone that overthinks in your life. It might change them. Thank you for all of the partners and all of those that every single week are sending me messages that are giving. I thank you for every gift that you guys give. I love you ever so much. I pray over you every single day. Thank you so much for being a part of my family. I love you. And I'll see you next time. Keep walking. Silence your thoughts. Stop overthinking. You're going somewhere greater. God bless you today. Let's have an amazing week.